This video is sponsored by Vidyard, which makes recording and sharing your screen incredibly easy. But now let's get to the video.
All right, hey, what's up guys? Soldier Knows Best there. So this is a camera comparison with the new OnePlus Nord and also the iPhone SE 2020 edition. So this is a battle between the really good cheap smartphones this year. But I wanted to kick things off with a test with the front-facing camera. So on the OnePlus Nord, you can record 4K video up to 60 frames per second, but on the iPhone SE, you are limited to 1080p, only up to 30 frames per second. And so having this extra frame rate with the Nord means that you can slow down your footage to get some really cool looking shots, but you can't do that on the iPhone SE. But I still think the HD video coming from the iPhone looks pretty good. Now, one extra thing on the Nord is that it does have an extra camera on the front. So this extra camera is going to allow you to be able to take wider, just bigger group selfies. So you'll be able to get more people in the shot without having to break your arm with trying to hold it out. And then also too, if you're just trying to take a selfie of yourself, you can get more things in the background. So finally, all of my fellow long arm people, we can relax and not always have to be the one taking the selfies.
All right, so let's address the elephant in the room here real quick, and that's the fact that this OnePlus Nord does have way more cameras than the iPhone SE. Now, does more cameras always mean better? Not always, but we'll see how that comes into play here. So basically, on the iPhone SE, you have a main camera that comes in at 12 megapixels, and that's it as far as the camera on the back. And then on the back of the OnePlus Nord, you do have a main camera that comes in at 48 megapixels, and I'll show you where that comes into play. But then also on the OnePlus Nord, you do have an ultra-wide camera, and this allows you just to get way more into your shot, and it really just helps to change up the perspective of what you're looking at. It just really gives your photo a different dynamic, and you can't go wrong with an ultra wide, so I'm always in favor of adding that to a phone. And then also the OnePlus Nord does have a macro camera. Now, I know some people don't like macro cameras out there, and I'm not a big fan of them, but this phone does have it. It doesn't hurt nobody, but you're not going to be getting any great photos that are going to be super sharp and clear, but you can get a little bit more up close and personal with that camera. And then the last camera on the back of this Nord is going to be a depth camera, and so this is going to be helping out with portrait mode photos. And you can see from this example, the iPhone, I don't care whether it's the iPhone SE or the iPhone 11 or the 11 Pro, doesn't do a great job at taking portrait mode photos of objects like this fire hydrant. But with this OnePlus Nord, it had no issues recognizing that I was trying to have this hydrant be my subject, be the star of the show, and it gave me that nice blurry background that I was going for. And here's a portrait mode comparison using a person now. And so using myself, you see that on the OnePlus Nord, I actually like the way this photo looks because it kind of reminds me of the portrait mode photos that come from Pixel phones. And so it's a little bit more darker, but I found that the edge detection is really good here. And then also too, even though the depth of field as far as the background is not as shallow as what you find on the iPhone SE, I still think it does look good. But the one thing that really jumps off to me that really makes me like the iPhone's picture is the fact that the skin tones are really on point here. So it nailed the skin tones better than the OnePlus Nord, and that just really changes the overall look of the photo. So I think, when it comes to the iPhone pictures, and especially in portrait mode, if you're trying to get some really good pleasing skin tones, I think it's going to be better than the OnePlus Nord. Okay, so now let's take a look at some photos coming from the main cameras on these phones. So remember, the iPhone SE does have a 12 megapixel camera, but the OnePlus Nord has a 48 megapixel camera, and you can choose to switch between 48 or 12. And so you can see from this example, I really want to show you what happens when you start to punch in. Now on the iPhone SE, you actually have a little bit more sharpness and a little bit more detail in that photo, but the colors and things like that seem to just be too processed, as it's not doing a good job at holding things together. But on the OnePlus Nord, I really like the way this photo looks because of the colors, and everything is kind of really smoothed out and just really looks clean. Now, even though it's not the sharpest 48 megapixel photo that I've seen, and also it's not that sharp compared to the iPhone SE, to me it's just a more pleasing image to look at. And then let me punch in a little bit more here. So I'm gonna go up to 400% on the iPhone, and then with the OnePlus Nord, I'm gonna go up to 440. This should make it a little bit more even. And so yeah, so you can see the same things that I was talking about before, like the iPhone SE, you can see there with the bird, some of that red paint was kind of fading off a little bit, and that's how it looked in real life. But I like the fact that the OnePlus Nord kind of cleaned it up a little bit, which makes a better image in my opinion. So yeah, there's a difference between 48 megapixels and 12 megapixels between these phones. Oh man, look at these photos. Your boy's trying to become a photographer here. I'm joking. But here's another example between 48 megapixels and 12 megapixels. And we have the same thing that we saw earlier with the OnePlus Nord, where the photo just isn't really that sharp. The fence is really soft compared to the fence on the iPhone SE's photo. And so, yeah, I really like what the iPhone is doing here, especially when you look beyond the fence and you look in that field. You can kind of make out those lines in that farm or whatever that is that I took a photo of. You can see those details more where you you can't see those details as much with the OnePlus Nord, even though the fence is the main kind of subject here. The SE, I think in this particular case, won out. All right, so for this, I just wanted to show you something I noticed with the focusing is that the OnePlus Nord does a better job at just being able to use tap to focus to lock on to something, where the iPhone SE just really struggled to lock on to this, what is that called? Bud or whatever the heck that thing is inside of the flower. It just really couldn't lock on to it. And so the Nord was able to give me the photo that I was looking for, where on the iPhone SE, it was able to get behind it. So it wasn't a matter of just the distance. It just wasn't able to lock on to something that was that small and that kind of detailed. And so in addition to having a macro camera, if you're just trying to get up close and personal with your subject, the Nord is going to be better in those particular situations. And again, I have some more pictures of my big head here, but I am using portrait mode, using the front-facing cameras on these phones again. And so you can see that the iPhone's picture is going to be a little bit more saturated, especially when you look at that blue in the sky and also just my skin tone. But on the OnePlus Nord, I did find that the photo was a little bit sharper, right? Like my little baby hairs on my chin there come in a little bit better with the OnePlus Nord. But I did notice with the iPhone SE that you do get a better job at the cameras cutting my face out from the background. So you can see around my ears, it just looks better than what happened on the OnePlus Nord. But generally, both of these phones do a pretty good job at taking portrait mode selfies. All right, so boom, let's move on and take a look at some of the video coming from the rear-facing cameras. So right out the gate, the first thing you will notice is that the iPhone SE can record 4K up to 60 frames per second with its rear-facing camera, but the OnePlus Nord can't. So unlike its front-facing camera, it can only record up to 4K at 30 frames per second. So that's a little bit of a bummer there. I would definitely like to see that bumped up to 60 frames per second. But right now, I just want you to kind of look at some of this video and pay attention to the video stabilization. So the first clips I'm showing you here is nothing turned on, just kind of how everything is right out of the box. And because the iPhone SE doesn't really actually have another stabilization mode to turn on, this is all you can really get. But with the OnePlus Nord, you can turn on this super stable mode, and you can see it does make a difference as far as like the up and down movement, especially. So if you are trying to walk and talk, the Nord is going to be really good for that. But generally, I'm really liking the video coming from the iPhone SE as far as the dynamic range. Everything just looks a lot better because on the Nord, the blacks are just really crushed, right? It's the same thing we saw with the photos here. So the iPhone SE just really produces an image that just I would use in videos that I edit on YouTube and in other places. And to be fair, the SE is going to beat most phones in this particular price range. I mean, you're really getting flagship level video performance compared to like the iPhone 11 and 11 Pro. You're getting almost the same type of video performance in this package. And this even goes into when you compare slow motion with both of these phones being able to record 1080p up to 240 frames per second. The iPhone SE still does edge out the OnePlus Nord. But the Nord does have one or two things kind of extra that it can do when it comes to video, and that's the fact that you still have that ultra wide camera, so you can use that for video mode to get a wider look if that's what you're trying to go for. And then also it does have like a cine mode that's going to give you kind of a crop down video, which does look cool, but you can just go into your video editor and then crop down that video for the iPhone and get that very similar look. So, I mean, that's not a huge advantage for the Nord, but it just kind of does that by default and you don't have to do anything extra with it. And speaking of extra stuff, let's go back to the photos real quick, because on the OnePlus Nord, you do have a Pro mode, which will allow you to get way more control over how your photo will turn out. So you can go in there and adjust all the different settings before you hit that shutter button. And then when it comes to taking photos in the dark or at night, the iPhone SE does not have a dedicated night mode. So what you see is what you get. But on the OnePlus Nord, it does have their Nightscape mode, which will allow it to take a little bit more time in those darker situations to be able to get a better photo. And so quality, iPhone SE, that rhymes. And then also hardware options, you got to go with the OnePlus Nord. But no matter what, I'm just happy that we're getting sub $500 phones that have camera quality like this. And so everything around this price point is getting better and better. And I think this is a win for us, that everything is just getting really good right now. And something else is good is our sponsor for this video, and that's Vidyard. And so yeah, all the times that I showed you me messing around with Final Cut Pro in this video, I was using Vidyard to record that. And it's cool because it is just a free Google Chrome extension that doesn't take any space on your computer. You can just load it up in Google Chrome, record your screen, and then now you can upload that to YouTube, or you can leave that on your own share page and people can go to it and just look at all the videos that you recorded. And then also too, I know some of you out there are just like me. You may be the techie of your family and you may be trying to explain something to someone who's really not that into tech. Well, this makes it really easy easy because you can just record a quick clip and even include your face by using like a webcam, and then now you can talk them through it just over this video, and now you don't have to sit on the phone all day, and I know that can be frustrating. And then you also have the flexibility to just record your entire screen or just a single app that's running on your computer or just a single tab that's open up in Chrome. So look, you can just record a video real quick using this, especially before like a Zoom call, and then if you do have the Pro version, you can download that HD video and then just pop it in that call and be set to go. But no matter what, it's free to try out, so why not do it? So go to vidyard.com/SKB and let me know what you think about it. But also too, let me know what you think about this video as far as which phone's cameras that you like the most. And make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. And like always, I do want to thank you for watching this video, and I will catch you later. Peace.